Hello, Greg Herbert here, and I would like to address a comment of interest written by a fellow YouTube friend, ShadowWolfRising, who commented on our recent video, to Loveru, and why Bill 156 is the right thing to do. In that, Shadow commented,
"There are issues with the bill. However, yes, it does get rid of hentai, but it also severely limits writers of any kind. And I don't mean just sexual things. It forbids the use of any illegal action in animated media, meaning Bleach, Naruto, good anime and manga deemed illegal just due to violence. It's been theorized that it could severely damage Japan's economy, forcing many game designers and writers to move to other locations, including offshores. This could put anime and manga in danger."
I know what you mean, and that is the thing I don't agree with Ishihara and company on. My argument in support of 156 is, however, I believe that people like Kubo, Kishimoto, and like-minded and companies like Shueisha, Shogaku, Kanko, Dansya, and Kadokawa will ultimately lobby and win concessions, as this does, and this is my beef with the bill, by the way, restrict responsible risk-taking amongst creators. Bill 156 will need to be altered by the Japanese government. I am just as concerned as you. The government will need to put these concessions in place, because 156 is too far-reaching, and as you put it perfectly, threatens anime, manga, and games. And once the government comes to its senses, perhaps even Ishihara, they will realize that the far-reaching effects actually naturally threaten creative media, and will ultimately have to alter 156 once the industries affected come forward and voice their opinions. There is room for sensible compromise. Ishihara and the government have the right thing in mind, but need to review the law and take heed and listen carefully to the coming arguments from the anime, manga, and game industries. To clarify my stance on the whole issue, I support most of 156 because it will curb the flow of fan-service anime and force creators to form plots that don't revolve around gratuitous panty shots of underage schoolgirls, and likewise the gratuitous yaoi and yuri seeping into mainstream anime. If anime and manga can survive a law like this, it doesn't have any business existing, because it would mean it relies solely on perversion and nothing on substance. That wouldn't give anime enough credit in the greater scheme of things. Plenty of good make that great stories have been told through the medium that didn't need to cater to fetish to get people to enjoy it. Stuff will still be made. It just will have to clean itself up some, or be labeled adult. If anything, it will curtail some of the questionable themes that drive mass market away from anime in Japan. For the industry to survive and thrive, it needs broader appeal anyways. Having more things labeled adult isn't that big a deal. Some of it needs to be labeled adults only. However, I encourage the anime, game, and manga industries in Japan to pressure the government to alter the law so that creative freedoms can be preserved and restored. At the same time, they should tone down and/or reverse the long-running trend towards said over-the-top sex appeal. Personally, as I have said in videos past, a good 70–85% of violence in anime and serves a purpose, as they are integral to the storyline and thence the substance. It's just part of the story. Fighting and violence is a part of life. Meanwhile, 80–90% of sex outside of traditional consensual matrimony-based male-female relationships is for the most part frivolous, superfluous, and unnecessary, as are the related titillation derivatives. Deal with it. In most respects, high-velocity gunshots make more sense than high-velocity cum shots. Seriously speaking, while this may be alarming to most of us, myself included, there are too many factors involved that we cannot definitely say that this will harm Japan's anime/manga/J-pop culture. I know that this law will cut a tiny bit into the free imagination of today's current anime and manga producers, but it could potentially create new ideas that aren't just about some people who go through the same things over and over to save the world. Maybe it will let these producers of anime and manga to be able to create works that don't need the current status quo that many animes have in common: excessive fan service, animes around school, etc. It's really tiresome. Maybe Hayao Miyazaki needs to make the rounds and teach today's anime producers and mangaka on how you don't need no titillation to make good anime and manga. The quality of anime cannot just be about sex and violence and on little girls. There has to be more than that. The best animes out there didn't necessarily have to use visual appeals for the human appetite, but use of good story and character development. On the sexual front, people are definitely overreacting. This was a thing that needed to be done. It may possibly hinder some titles from being produced or published from being more successful than it potentially could be, but it's not really that bad looking at the big picture. I don't see it much more different from what we see here in the States. No more Skinamax during prime time. And to be honest, it might even actually help anime. It cost a lot of money to produce and have an anime televised in Japan. So much so that there is none to little profit. You could even expect to see some loss. Money is produced primarily through goods and DVD sales. If a series, say for example one like a 1000 or Queen's Blade, is deemed too itchy for TV, even at late hours on certain channels, it would likely save money just going straight to OVA. You might also notice that a lot of these hyper-itchy series do that already. The point of a TV run is to sell people on the series and get them to purchase the DVDs and products that come from the series. If a series is bad, well, it might have better luck without the TV run, as people will not know how bad the show is. Then again, we all know that was not the reason they watched it in the first place. And you know what the fuck I mean. If both sides can come together and form a compromise that preserves freedom of creativity amongst media, while curbing the disturbing trend towards anything goes immorality. If the two sides come together as responsible adults in a meeting of the minds, both parties can come up with a solution in which everyone wins. The government can encourage media responsibility, media mavens retain their creative freedoms, and people around the world will still get to enjoy their anime, manga and games. And both the financial and moral prognoses of anime, manga and games will enjoy benefit. In my opinion, this law will correct itself. Thank you, ShadowWolfRising, for the comment. That has been my 2 cents on this issue. Now let's get to better.